The chamber stretched vast and cold, its walls carved from crystalline stone that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic decisions. Today, those walls would witness something unprecedented. Taewon stood at the speaker's podium, his dark suit simple compared to the elaborate garments worn by the alien representatives surrounding him. He held a data tablet in steady hands, though his heart hammered against his ribs. Behind him, the human delegation sat in perfect silence. They knew what was at stake. "Honorable council members," Taewon began, his voice clear in the translation field that converted his words into 100 different languages. 3 months ago, the mining colonies of New Haven, Prosperity, and Dawn's Edge went silent. 2 million human civilians lived on those worlds. We have evidence that the Vraxian Empire is responsible. He activated the projection. Holographic images filled the air above the assembly. Distress signals. Surveillance footage showing Vraxian warships entering human space. Testimony from the handful of survivors who managed to escape. A child's voice, recorded in the final moments before a colony went dark, calling for her mother. The council chamber remained quiet. But it was not the quiet of respect. It was the quiet of indifference. Councillor Vex Thara, a being of shifting colors and multiple limbs, rose from his seat on the high platform. His species had been part of the council for 5,000 years. Humanity had joined only 3 centuries ago. "Ambassador Taewon," Vex Thara said, his voice carrying the weight of ancient authority. "We have reviewed your evidence. The council finds it insufficient. The Vraxian Empire has denied these accusations. Without concrete proof of their involvement, we cannot act." Taewon felt something cold settle in his chest. "Counselor, we have shown you surveillance footage. We have survivor testimony. We have tracking data showing Vraxian ships." "Circumstantial," Vex Thara interrupted. "Your species is young in galactic affairs. Perhaps you misunderstand the complexities of interstellar politics. The Vraxians are valuable members of this council. We cannot simply accuse them based on emotional reactions." From across the chamber, the Vraxian representative rose. His scaled form gleamed under the chamber lights, and his teeth showed in what might have been a smile. The humans always were prone to hysteria. Perhaps they should focus less on making accusations and more on properly defending their territory. If they cannot protect their worlds, perhaps they should not have expanded so aggressively. Laughter rippled through parts of the assembly. Not all species joined in, but enough did. Enough that Taewon heard it echo off those ancient walls. He gripped the podium edge. "We request a formal investigation. We request council protection for our remaining colony worlds until request denied." Vex Thara did not even let him finish. "We will now vote on the human petition for intervention against the Vraxian Empire. All in favor? Request denied." 3 lights appeared on the voting display. 3 species out of 50 in the council. The Pelthans, who had always been friends to humanity. The Derricks, a minor species themselves. The Quillari, who understood what it meant to be dismissed by the powerful. All opposed? 47 lights, 47 species who decided that human lives did not matter enough to risk offending the Vraxians. That the death of 2 million people was not worth an investigation. Taewon stood very still. He thought of New Haven, where his cousin had lived with her family. She taught music to children there. Her last message had been 2 words. "They're here." That was 3 months ago. He thought of Prosperity, the breadbasket colony that fed 15 other human worlds, of Dawn's Edge, where humanity had discovered ancient ruins that promised to unlock secrets of the galaxy's past. All gone. All taken. And the galaxy's highest authority had just declared it did not matter. Taewon gathered his data tablets. Each movement was slow, deliberate. He disconnected his personal recorder. He picked up the small case containing all the evidence they had brought. The chamber watched him with varying degrees of interest and contempt. "Ambassador," Vex Thara said, his tone carrying a hint of irritation. You will accept the Council's decision. This is how galactic justice works. In time, you will understand. Taewon turned toward the exit. His delegation stood as one. 12 humans, each representing different colonies and worlds, each carrying the weight of humanity's hopes for justice. Ambassador Taewon, Vexthera's voice rose. You will return to your seat. The council session is not concluded. We still have matters to discuss regarding human trade agreements, and Taewon reached the doorway. The massive doors stood open, leading to the corridor beyond. He stopped. His hand rested on the frame, and for 10 seconds, the entire council chamber held its breath. Hundreds of alien species watched this human at the threshold. Turn around and accept their decision, they expected. Bow your head and learn your place in the galactic order. Understand that some species matter more than others. Taewon stepped through the doorway. His delegation followed. One by one, they walked out. No speeches. No dramatic gestures. No threats or promises. They simply left. The doors closed behind them with a sound like the ceiling of a tomb. In the council chamber, confusion rippled through the assembly. Some species found it amusing. The Vraxian representative laughed openly. Look at them run. Perhaps we should take the rest of their worlds as well. But a very few, felt something cold touch their hearts. The Pelthan ambassador stared at the closed doors. She had seen many species come before the council over the millennia. She had seen anger. She had seen desperation. She had seen fear. She had never seen this. This quiet, complete withdrawal. This silence that somehow felt heavier than any scream. Outside, in the corridor of crystalline stone, Taewon walked toward the docking bay where human ships waited. His delegation followed in silence. They passed alien species, who paused to watch them. Some whispered. Some pointed. None understood. Taewon reached his ship and activated his personal communicator. This is Ambassador Taewon to all human vessels in Council space. Recall protocols are now active. All personnel are to return to human territory immediately. No explanations. No goodbyes. Just come home. Within hours, the message spread through every human outpost, every embassy, every trade station. Within days, humanity began to vanish from the galaxy, and they did not speak a single word of explanation to those they left behind. Dr. Haywon stood in her office at Galactic University on Centauri Prime, looking at 23 years of her life, packed into 12 containers. Books written in 15 different languages. Research notes on xenoanthropology that had earned her 3 prestigious awards. Photographs of students from a dozen species, all smiling together. All of it was going into storage. All of it was being left behind. Her research partner, a Centauri named Velcris, stood in the doorway. His blue skin had paled to almost white, a sign of distress in his species. Haywon, please, explain this to me. The university board has agreed to double your salary. We can offer you the lead position in the new cultural exchange program. Why are you leaving? Haywon sealed another container. She had known Velcris for 8 years. They had published 17 papers together. He had attended her father's funeral through holographic connection, offering traditional Centauri songs of remembrance, even though his species did not usually share such intimacies with outsiders. I have to go home, she said simply. But why? What happened? Is this about the council vote? Haywon. That was politics. Messy, unfortunate politics. But it does not have to affect us. Our work is beyond such things. Haywon looked at him. Really looked at him. Velcris was not a bad person. He was kind, intelligent, and genuinely cared about his work. But he did not understand. He could not understand. 2 million of my people died, she said quietly, and the galaxy decided it did not matter. That is not politics, Velcris. That is a truth about how this galaxy works. But you cannot blame all of us for what the Council decided. Many species opposed that vote in spirit, even if they could not vote against the Vraxians publicly. The politics are complex. The Vraxians control key trade routes. They have military might. The Council had to consider. Had to consider what? Haywan's voice remained calm, but something in her eyes made Velcris step back. Had to consider that human lives are worth less than trade routes? That our deaths are acceptable losses for political convenience? Velcris, if 2 million Centauri had died, and the Council dismissed it, would you stay? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Haywan sealed the last container and activated the transport beacon. I thought so. 1. Across Centauri Prime, the same scene repeated in 1,000 different ways. Human professors resigned from universities. Human engineers abandoned massive construction projects they had worked on for years. Human doctors left hospitals. Human merchants closed their shops and loaded their goods onto ships. In the massive orbital shipyard above Thesara, a joint construction project ground to a halt. Humans had made up 30% of the engineering team building a new class of medical vessels. They packed their tools, transferred their access codes, and departed within 48 hours. The remaining engineers stared at the half-built ships and realized they did not have the expertise to continue without them. On the trading world of Pax Station, human merchant ships began undocking one after another. The station master, a 4-armed Quilox, watched his monitors in growing panic. Human vessels transported 23% of all goods moving through Council space. They were the most reliable, most punctual, most efficient shipping network in the galaxy. Every single one of them was leaving. He tried to contact the human trade coordinator. The communication channel was dead. He tried reaching human shipping companies. All lines were disconnected. He sent messages to human captains he had known for decades, people he had shared drinks with, whose children he had met. None of them responded. In the medical research facility on Delphine 6, Dr. Eugene gathered her team of 7 human researchers. They had been 3 years into a project developing a cure for Kelphian wasting disease, a plague that killed millions across 3 species. They were close. So close. Another year, and they would have a viable treatment. Pack everything that belongs to us, she told her team. Our personal research notes, our equipment that we purchased, anything that came from human funding. Leave the rest. Her Delphian colleague, Mershan, rushed into the lab. Eugene, you cannot leave now. The project will continue without us, Eugene said. You have all our published data. You have the facility. You have the funding. But we need your expertise. Your team leads the Neurological Research Division. Without you, we will be set back years. Eugene looked at her colleague. She remembered the emergency session where they had all watched the council vote. Mershan had been there. She had seen the tally. She had seen the Delphian representative vote against helping humanity. You should have thought of that before your representative decided human lives were not worth defending, Eugene said. She walked out. Her team followed. Behind them, Mershan stood alone in a lab that suddenly felt very empty. The pattern continued across known space. Human students left universities mid-semester. Human artists canceled exhibitions. Human athletes withdrew from galactic competitions. Human colonists living on mixed-species worlds packed up and left, offering no explanations beyond simple, polite notices. The few aliens living in human space found themselves treated very differently. They were not expelled. They were not threatened or harmed. Instead, they received formal notices, offering them safe passage out of human territory, complete with generous severance packages that included 3 months of salary and paid transportation to any destination they chose. Most took the offer, confused but grateful. A few tried to stay, but were gently, firmly, told that all non-humans would be required to leave within 60 days. No exceptions. And through it all, humanity said nothing. No press releases. No announcements, no explanations or justifications, or angry speeches about betrayal and injustice. They simply left. The jump gates, marking routes to human space, began deactivating. First, the outer ones, in remote sectors. Then the inner ones, closer to major trade routes. Each gate that went dark cut off another avenue into human territory. The hyperspace beacons that helped ships navigate to human worlds stopped transmitting. Trade routes that had been open for 300 years simply vanished from galactic navigation systems. Heywan's ship was among the last to depart Council space. She stood at the observation window as Centauri Prime shrank behind them. Her communicator buzzed. Messages from Velcris, from other colleagues, from students, all asking the same questions. Why? What happened? Can we talk about this? Please respond. She turned off the communicator. The ship reached the final jump gate leading into human space. Beyond it lay Earth, Luna, Mars, and the 100 other human worlds scattered through 20 star systems. The gate acknowledged their credentials and opened. Behind them, the gate powered down. Its lights went dark. The galaxy was left to wonder what, exactly, had just happened, and whether they should have paid more attention when 2 million humans died and their ambassador walked away without speaking. Jinho worked in a room without windows, deep beneath the surface of Luna. Screens covered every wall, showing star maps, ship movements, communication intercepts, and economic data. This was the Human Defense Coordination Center, and Jinho was one of its first analysts. 5 years had passed since Taiwan walked out of the council chamber. 5 years since humanity had closed its borders and vanished from galactic affairs. Jinho had been fresh out of university then, ready to start a career in interstellar relations. That career had evaporated along with humanity's presence in council space. Instead, he had found this job. Watching, documenting, learning. "We have movement in Sector 14, his colleague Donghyun said from across the room. Vraxian fleet. 47 ships. They are heading toward the Pelthan colonies. Jinho pulled up the tactical display. The Vraxians had grown bold over the past 5 years. Without humanity to check their expansion, they had taken 4 more systems. The Council issued statements of concern. The Vraxians ignored them. The Pelthans do not have the military strength to resist, Jinho said quietly. The Council will lose another member species. Should we send a warning? Donghyun asked. Jinho shook his head. No communication. You know the policy. The policy was simple. Humanity watched, but did not speak, did not warn, did not intervene. The galaxy had made its choice 5 years ago. Now, it would live with the consequences. 3 weeks later, Jinho documented the fall of 2 Pelthan worlds. 3 million dead. The Council called an emergency session. They voted on economic sanctions against the Vraxian Empire. The sanctions passed, but they were weak, full of loopholes. The Vraxians laughed at them. Jinho added the data to his growing report. A report nobody outside human space would ever see. The economic situation grew worse. Without human shipping, trade routes became inefficient. Goods that used to take weeks to transport now took months. Prices rose. Shortages developed. The Council tried to compensate by building their own logistics network, but it was clumsy and expensive. Human trade had not just been large. It had been the connective tissue holding the galactic economy together. Medical research slowed to a crawl. Jinho tracked 17 major research projects that had stalled or failed completely after human scientists withdrew. The Kelfian wasting disease that Eugene had been working on? Still no cure. The death toll had reached 40 million across 3 species. The Council sent formal requests to humanity, asking for assistance. The messages were polite, diplomatic, offering generous terms for renewed cooperation. Every message went unanswered. In the 8th month of the 5th year, something changed. Jinho was reviewing deep space sensor data when he noticed unusual readings. Ships moving in formation, energy signatures that did not match any known council species. Dong-hyun, are you seeing this? His colleague pulled up the same data. That is the Vraxian Empire's 6th fleet. They are moving toward Thesara. Thesara, one of the Council's core worlds, home to 12 billion beings. The diplomatic heart of the Council, where most major treaties were signed and stored. They would not dare, Dong-hyun whispered. That would be an act of war against the entire Council. But they did dare. Jin-ho watched it happen in real time through intercepted communications and sensor data. The Vraxian fleet dropped out of hyperspace around Thesara. The planet's defenses activated, but they were designed for deterrence, not actual warfare. The Council had not fought a major conflict in 2 centuries. The Vraxians had been preparing for war for 5 years. The orbital defense stations died first. Then, the Vraxian ships began bombardment. Not strategic strikes against military targets. Indiscriminate destruction of population centers. Jin-ho felt sick as the numbers climbed. 1 billion dead. 2 billion. 5 billion. The Council fleet responded, but they were disorganized. Their tactics were outdated. Their commanders had no real combat experience. Jin-ho watched and realized something that made his blood run cold. The Council military had been relying on human strategic advisors for over a century. Humans had planned their exercises, designed their defense protocols, trained their officers. The Council had not realized how much of their military capability had depended on human expertise until that expertise was gone. Thesara fell in 48 hours. 8 billion dead. 4 billion captured. Or scattered. As refugees. The galaxy reeled in shock. Dong-hyun looked at Jin-ho with haunted eyes. We could have warned them. We saw the Vraxian build-up weeks ago. We could have sent a message, given them time to evacuate or prepare defenses. Jin-ho said nothing. The same thought had occurred to him, but the orders were clear. Humanity would not interfere in Council affairs. The Council emergency session that followed was chaos. Jin-ho intercepted the audio feeds. Species screaming at each other. Accusations flying. Everyone blaming everyone else for the catastrophe. Vexthera's voice rose above the noise. The old counselor sounded tired, defeated. We need help. We need expertise we no longer possess. We need... He paused. We need... humanity. The humans abandoned us. Someone shouted. They ran away when things got difficult. No, a quieter voice said. Jin-ho recognized it as the Pelthan ambassador. We abandoned them. And now, we face the consequences. The Council voted to send an official request to humanity. A plea for assistance against the Vraxian threat. They offered everything they could think of. Full Council membership, with expanded voting rights. Economic advantages. Formal apologies for the events of 5 years ago. Jin-ho watched the message transmit toward human space. It would reach Earth in 3 days. Will we respond? Dong-hyun asked. Jin-ho thought about Tae-wan, who now served as one of Earth's senior diplomats. He thought about the 2 million humans who died while the Council debated their worth. He thought about 8 billion beings on Thesara who had just died because the Council was unprepared for the monster they had allowed to grow in their midst. I do not know, Jin-ho said honestly. That decision is far above my level, but he documented everything. Every death, every failure, every moment when the Council's arrogance had come home to destroy them. Not out of satisfaction or revenge, but because someone needed to remember. Someone needed to understand exactly what had happened and why. The galaxy was burning, and humanity watched in silence, still deciding whether the beings who had abandoned them deserved to be saved. Commander Sang-woo stood on the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, watching construction crews add the final touches to humanity's newest warship. Through the viewport, he could see 6 more vessels in various stages of completion. Each one represented technology the Council had never seen. 15 years had passed since Tae-1 walked out of the Council chamber. 15 years of isolation, of turning inward, of building something new. "How long until the fleet is ready?" Sang-woo asked his tactical officer. 2 weeks, Commander. All systems are testing above expected parameters. The new propulsion drives are performing better than simulated. We can cross distances in days that would take Council ships months. Sang-woo nodded. The new drives were just one of dozens of breakthroughs humanity had achieved. Without the burden of Council politics, without the constant demands of maintaining diplomatic relations with 50 different species, humanity had focused entirely on advancement. The results had been extraordinary. "Commander, we have Dr. Bo-ra requesting permission to come aboard." "Send her up." Bo-ra entered the bridge 5 minutes later. She was young, only 31, but she had already designed the defensive systems for 12 human colonies. Her engineering skills had become legendary within human space. "Commander Sang-woo," she said with a slight bow, "I wanted to update you on the defense station construction around New Terra." New Terra was one of the newer colonies, established 7 years ago. It now housed 6 million humans and was becoming a center for agricultural research. "The stations are ahead of schedule," Bo-ra continued. "We have incorporated the new shield generators and point defense systems. If anyone attacks New Terra, they will face resistance that would make a Council core world jealous." "Good. What about the generation ships?" Bo-ra's eyes lit up. The generation ships were her passion project. Massive vessels designed to carry 10,000 people each, capable of sustaining themselves for centuries if needed. They were humanity's insurance policy. If the galaxy became too dangerous, humans could load up and head for unexplored space beyond all known civilizations. 3 are complete. 7 more are under construction. "Commander, we could evacuate every human world within 6 months if we needed to." Sang-woo hoped it would never come to that, but he was glad they had the option. His communicator chimed. "Commander, this is Medical Research Station Prometheus. Dr. Yu-jin requests a moment of your time." "Mokes." Sang-woo accepted the call. Dr. Yu-jin appeared on the screen, looking tired but excited. "Commander, we have done it. The treatment for neural degeneration is ready for final trials. If it works as expected, we can extend human cognitive function well into advanced age. We are talking about average lifespans of 120 years, with full mental clarity." It was just one of many medical breakthroughs. Human researchers, no longer dividing their time between Council projects and human needs, had made advances that seemed almost miraculous. Diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries were being cured. Genetic defects were being corrected. The human body itself was becoming more resilient. "Excellent work, Doctor. When can we begin widespread distribution?" 6 months, maybe less if we fast-track the safety trials. After Yu-jin signed off, Sang-woo walked to the observation deck. Earth hung in the distance, beautiful and blue. Around it, orbital platforms formed a defensive network that would make any attacker think twice. Humanity had built these defenses not for conquest, but for protection. The philosophy had taken root across all human worlds. Build strong, but do not attack. Defend fiercely, but do not invade. Walk your own path, but do not force others to follow. It was a philosophy born from pain, from the memory of being abandoned when they needed help most. Humanity had learned the hard way that they could only truly rely on themselves. Sang-woo's second officer, Kyung-sik, joined him at the viewport. "Commander, we have detected unusual activity in deep space. Sector 91. Beyond Council territory." "What kind of activity?" "Unknown. The sensor readings are strange. High energy emissions. Multiple sources moving in coordinated patterns. Whatever it is big, and it is coming from outside the galaxy." Sang-woo felt a chill run down his spine. Assemble the analysis team. I want full reports within the hour. The analysis took 3 hours, not 1. And what they found made Sang-woo call an emergency meeting with Earth's military command. The threat was called the Devourer Swarm, by the few species that had encountered it in the galactic rim. Extragalactic entities that consumed entire worlds, stripping them of all resources before moving to the next target. They had appeared on the edge of known space 2 years ago, but had been too far away to concern anyone in the Council. Now they were moving toward Council territory. Sang-woo ran the simulations a dozen times. Each time, the results were the same. The Council did not have the military capability to stop the swarm. Their fleets were still recovering from the Vraxian attacks. Their tactics were outdated. Their technology was insufficient. The Devourer Swarm would consume the Council worlds within 2 years. "It is not our problem," Admiral Chen said during the command meeting. "The Council made their choice 15 years ago. Why should we risk human lives for beings who would not lift a finger to save ours?" "Because we are better than that," a voice said from the doorway. Ji-woo entered the room. She was 28, young for a diplomat, but she had risen quickly through the ranks. She had been 13 when Tae-won walked out of the Council chamber. She had no personal memories of humanity's time as Council members. "The Council wronged us," Ji-woo continued. "They were cowards who valued political convenience over justice. But if we let billions die because of revenge, how are we any different?" "It is not revenge," Admiral Chen said. "It is practicality. We have our own people to protect, and we can protect them better by ensuring the swarm does not consume half the galaxy," Ji-woo countered. "Besides, this is an opportunity. If we save the Council, we do it on our terms. We show the galaxy that humanity acts from strength and compassion, not from fear or political calculation." The debate raged for hours. Finally, they took a vote. The decision was narrow, but clear. Humanity would act. Sang-woo returned to his ship and began preparations. They had 2 weeks before the fleet was fully operational. 2 weeks to plan an operation that would either save the Council or doom humanity alongside them. He looked at the data on the Devourer Swarm one more time. They were powerful, numerous, and utterly without mercy. But they had never faced humanity before. Councillor Vex Thara stood in what remained of Thesara's capital city. Once, towers of crystal and steel had reached toward the sky here. Now, rubble stretched as far as he could see. The Vraxian attack had been 7 years ago, but reconstruction was slow. Everything was slow these days. He was old now, so old. His species could live for 3 centuries, but Vex Thara felt every year of his 240 years weighing on him, especially the last 17. 17 years since the human ambassador had walked out of the Council chamber. 17 years since Vex Thara had dismissed human deaths as political inconvenience. How many had died because of that decision? 2 million humans in the initial attack, 3 million Pelthans, 8 billion on Thesara. Millions more as the Council fractured and struggled. And now this. Vex Thara looked at the sky. Somewhere beyond it, the Devourer Swarm approached. Council scouts had confirmed it. The swarm would reach core Council worlds within 6 months. The Council fleet had managed to slow them down in 3 minor engagements, but not stop them. Nothing the Council had could stop them. His aide approached, a young Quellan who had been born after the humans left. "Counselor, we have received a response from humanity." Vex Thara's heart, or the closest thing his species had to one, quickened. The Council had sent 17 messages to humanity over the past year, each one more desperate than the last. All had gone unanswered, until now. What do they say? A single human ship requests permission to dock. They wish to address the Council. After 17 years of silence, humanity was ready to speak. The Council chamber filled quickly. Every species wanted to witness this. 10 species had left the Council over the years, either destroyed by the Vraxians or withdrawn in disgust at the Council's incompetence. New species had joined. younger ones desperate for protection. The doors opened. Taewon walked in first. He was older, his hair touched with gray, but he moved with the same quiet dignity he had shown 17 years ago. Behind him came Commander Song-woo, in a military uniform that was simple, but clearly marked him as a senior officer. And behind them came Ji-woo, young and sharp-eyed, carrying a data case. The chamber fell absolutely silent. Taewon walked to the speaker's podium, the same podium where he had stood 17 years ago, begging for help that never came. He placed a small crystal on the podium's surface. "Counselor Vex Thara," Taewon said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the chamber. "The Council faces an extinction-level threat. The Devourer Swarm will consume your worlds within 6 months. We are here to tell you that humanity has the capability to stop them." Hope lit faces throughout the chamber. Vex Thara felt it rise in his own chest before he crushed it down. There would be a price. There was always a price. "We have spent 17 years building," Sang-woo said, taking over the presentation. "Building our defenses, our technology, our strength. We did this alone because we learned we could only rely on ourselves. But now, we find ourselves with a choice. We can watch the galaxy burn, or we can act." Ji-woo activated the crystal. Holographic data filled the air. Battle plans, ship formations, technology specifications. It was more advanced than anything the Council had seen, and it was all laid out for them to examine. "This is how we stop the swarm," Ji-woo said. "This is the strategy. This is what it will cost in resources and lives. This is how we save the Council." We consigned. Vex Thara found his voice. "What do you want in return?" Taewon looked at him for a long moment. "We want nothing. I do not understand. We are not here to bargain, Counselor. We are not here to extract concessions or trade favors. We are here because stopping the swarm is the right thing to do." Vex Thara felt something break inside him. "Then you are better than we deserve." "Yes," Taewon said simply. "We are. But that is not why we came." The crystal continued displaying information. The plan was brilliant. Sang-woo walked them through it, showing how human fleets would engage the swarm at multiple points, using hit-and-run tactics to break up their formations. How human technology would disrupt the swarm's coordination. How Council forces, limited as they were, would be used to maximum effect in supporting roles. It could work. It would work if everyone followed the plan. "There are conditions," Taewon said. "Name them," Vex Thara said. He would have agreed to anything. "First, no Council ship enters human territory without explicit permission. Our borders remain closed, except by our invitation." Several Council members nodded. That was fair. "Second, the 2 million humans killed on New Haven, Prosperity, and Dawn's Edge will be memorialized. Every Council world will erect a monument listing their names, not as a punishment, but as a reminder that every life matters, regardless of species or political convenience." Vex Thara bowed his head. "It will be done." Third, the Council will acknowledge publicly that it failed in its duty 17 years ago. This is not about humiliation. It is about honesty, about ensuring that future councils remember what happens when politics override justice. That one hurt, but it was necessary. The galaxy needed to remember. And fourth, Taewon's voice hardened slightly. "We will trade fairly with any species that wishes to trade with us. We will offer aid in disasters and share scientific discoveries. But we will not sit in that chamber again and pretend we are equals when we know the truth." "What truth?" someone asked from the assembly. "That when it mattered, you counted our lives as worthless. We have not forgotten. We will act with honor because that is who we choose to be, but we will not pretend the past did not happen." The silence that followed was heavy with shame. "We accept," Vex Thara said. "All conditions. When can you begin?" We began 3 days ago, Sangwoo said. The human fleet is already moving into position. We will engage the swarm's advance elements within 48 hours. Council forces should prepare to support as outlined in the tactical briefing. The next 6 weeks were chaos. Sangwoo's fleet hit the swarm like a hammer. Ships moving faster than the swarm expected, weapons that disrupted their coordination, tactics that exploited every weakness. The swarm had consumed a dozen civilizations. They had never faced anything like humanity. Bo-Ra's defense stations were transported to key locations and activated, creating fortified positions that the swarm could not easily bypass. Yujin's medical teams set up field hospitals and saved thousands of wounded Council soldiers, treating them with techniques and medicines the Council had never developed. And humanity fought. Not with joy or glory, but with grim determination. They took casualties. Ships were destroyed. Thousands of human soldiers died in the defense of Council worlds they had never seen, protecting beings who had abandoned their species years ago. But they won. The swarm broke on human defenses like waves on stone. They had numbers, but humanity had skill. They had hunger, but humanity had purpose. In the final battle above Delphine 6, Sangwoo's flagship faced 3 swarm hive ships alone, while the rest of his fleet herded the enemy into kill zones. The Indomitable survived. Barely. But the swarm did not. 6 weeks after the first engagement, the last swarm element was destroyed. The Council was saved. Tae-won stood in the Council chamber one final time. It was not for a formal session. Most Council members were not even present. Just Vex Thara, a few senior councilors, and the human delegation. Why? Vex Thara asked. Why save us, after what we did to you? Tae-won considered the question. Because you taught us something important, Counselor. You taught us that in this galaxy, strength without compassion is tyranny. You showed us what we could become if we let anger and resentment guide us. We learned. We hope someday you will learn too. We were wrong, Vex Thara said. His voice cracked. 17 years ago, we were so terribly wrong. I was wrong. I dismissed your pain. I called you emotional and inexperienced. I helped vote against you. And 2 million of your people paid the price for my arrogance. Yes, Tae-won said. They did. Can you forgive me? Tae-won shook his head slowly. Forgiveness is not mine to give, Counselor. It belongs to the 2 million who died while you debated their worth. I cannot speak for them. No one can. They are gone. And nothing you do now can change that. Then what can I do? Remember them. Remember what it cost. Remember that when you see another species suffering, and you are tempted to look away because it is politically convenient, there is a price to such choices. That price is measured in lives. Maybe that memory will make the next council better than this one. Tae-won walked toward the exit. For the second time, he reached the doorway of the council chamber. For the second time, he paused. But this time, when he looked back, he saw something different. Half the counselors in the room stood in respect, not all of them. Some still sat, stubborn or proud or unable to acknowledge what had happened. But enough stood that it meant something. Tae-won nodded once. Then he turned and walked out. Ji-woo and Sang-woo followed him into the corridor. Do you think they learned anything? Ji-woo asked. Some of them, Tae-won said. Not all. Maybe not most. But some. And maybe that is enough. The human ships departed Council space 3 days later. They left behind medical supplies, defense platforms, and tactical training protocols. They left behind monuments being constructed on every Council world, each one listing 2 million names. They left behind a galaxy that had changed. Humanity returned to their own space, to their own worlds, to the path they had chosen to walk. The Council sent messages of gratitude, offers of alliance, requests for ongoing cooperation. Some of these messages went answered. Most did not. Humanity had made their point. They would engage with the galaxy on their own terms, not on the galaxy's terms. And somewhere in the depths of space, on a memorial wall on Earth, someone added a new inscription below the names of the 2 million dead. They taught us the cost of silence. We taught the galaxy the power of choosing compassion over vengeance. May we never forget either lesson. The galaxy moved forward. Changed, but not transformed. Better, but not healed. And humanity walked their own path, alone but not lonely, silent but not forgotten. The end.